When the idea of a boxing match between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul first surfaced, it seemed like the perfect storm for sports entertainment. A heavyweight world champion with Olympic pedigree going toe-to-toe against a YouTube sensation turned fighter, a man who has made it his mission to blur the lines between celebrity and professional boxing. Fans immediately began imagining the electric atmosphere at London's Wembley Stadium, the massive crowds, and the buzz that would come with such an unusual clash. For weeks, speculation grew. Social media lit up with debates, memes, and predictions. Could Jake Paul even stand in the same ring as Joshua without being seriously hurt? Could Joshua, one of the sport's most respected heavyweights, take the fight seriously against someone with far less experience? The story seemed destined to climax with a colossal showdown on British soil. But now, the road to making this fight happen has hit an unexpected turn. Eddie Hearn, Joshua's longtime promoter and one of the most influential figures in modern boxing, has poured cold water on those early dreams of a Wembley spectacle. Speaking to reporters, Hearn revealed that the fight, if it happens at all, is far more likely to take place in the United States rather than England. The reason? Safety concerns raised by the British Boxing Board control. It turns out that the board views Jake Paul's lack of professional experience as a serious risk when paired with a heavyweight of Joshua's caliber. Joshua isn't just big. He's a massive, finely tuned athlete with years of top-level competition under his belt, putting someone like Paul, who despite his high-profile wins has fought nowhere near the level of opposition Joshua has, into a sanctioned fight in the UK was never going to be a straightforward process. For the board, sanctioning such a fight at home could set a precedent they're not prepared to deal with. This revelation was a bitter pill for British fans. Many had already envisioned a historic night under the Wembley lights, with tens of thousands singing and chanting, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. For them, the idea of seeing their national boxing hero face off against one of the sport's most polarizing newcomers was a mix of pride, curiosity, and skepticism. The thought of the fight happening thousands of miles away across the Atlantic feels, for some, like a loss before the first punch is thrown. But if English fans felt a little deflated, the excitement in the wider boxing world hasn't dimmed. In fact, things just got even more dramatic. Enter Adrian Broner, a man who needs no introduction to fight fans. A four-weight former world champion who once seemed destined to inherit Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s throne, Broner has spent the past several years in a haze of personal struggles, legal issues, and inconsistent performances. His nickname, The Problem, has long been a double-edged sword, sometimes a badge of his in-ring danger, other times a reflection of his troubles outside the ropes. Broner has now thrown himself directly into the Jake Paul conversation, and he's done it in his trademark style, loud, brash, and unapologetic. In a blunt Instagram video, Broner called Paul out by name, declaring, "Jake Paul, I'm gonna knock you out." No elaborate sales pitch, no polite challenge, just a bare-knuckle declaration of intent. And predictably, the internet took notice. Within hours, the clip was shared across fight forums, sports blogs, and Twitter feeds. Some saw it as a publicity stunt. Broner has been out of the championship spotlight for some time, and Paul is a lightning rod for attention. Others, however, took it as a genuine threat from a man who, for all his recent troubles, still possesses an elite skill set in the ring. The challenge also sparked immediate debate among boxing pundits. Could Broner, even at this stage of his career, handle someone like Jake Paul? On paper, Broner is undeniably the more skilled, traditional boxer. He's faced world-class opposition, held multiple titles, and shown defensive mastery in his prime. But boxing is about more than skill. Former UFC fighter turned podcast host Brendan Schaub weighed in on the subject during his show. While he openly admitted Broner was without a doubt a better boxer, he pointed out a significant issue: size. Broner, a career lightweight and welterweight, is much, much smaller than Jake Paul, who has been competing at cruiserweight. In boxing, size matters, especially when power shots start flying. This size disparity has led many to lean toward Paul as a favorite in such a matchup. He's younger, naturally bigger, and has been building his career against larger opponents. Broner's slick skills might allow him to outbox Paul for stretches, but could he withstand the physicality and power of a man so much bigger? Adding to the intrigue is the fact that Jake Paul's fight schedule has already been unpredictable. Talks had once linked him to Gervonta "Tank" Davis, one of the most explosive fighters in the sport. But after Davis fought to a controversial draw against Lamont Roach Jr., those negotiations fizzled. In boxing, timing is everything, and sometimes a single result can change the course of multiple careers. Now, Paul finds himself in a peculiar position. The Joshua fight is complicated by regulatory hurdles. The Davis fight is off the table. And standing in front of him is Adrian Broner, not a megastar in the sport's current landscape, but still a name with enough credibility to stir attention. For Paul, the decision on what comes next is critical. Take the Broner fight, and he risks criticism if he wins because of the size difference, or ridicule if he loses because Broner is seen as past his prime. Hold out for Joshua, and he risks losing momentum while the negotiations drag on. What's clear is that Paul's path in professional boxing was never going to be simple. Despite his success in building a career from unconventional beginnings, the sport has a way of throwing up challenges that can't be solved with social media buzz or pay-per-view hype alone. Changing the location of the Joshua fight is more than just a logistical adjustment. It's a sign of how cautious the sport's governing bodies are when it comes to matchmaking that blurs the line between sport and spectacle. Meanwhile, Broner's challenge is a reminder that in boxing, opportunities can appear suddenly and from unexpected places. Whether Paul chooses to step into the ring with Joshua, Broner, or someone else entirely, the next few months will be decisive. Fans will watch every move. Critics will dissect every choice, and the conversation will continue to swirl. In the unpredictable theater of modern boxing, one truth remains constant. The biggest fights aren't always the ones that happen in the ring. Sometimes the real battle is in the negotiations, the press conferences, and the decisions that happen long before the opening bell. And right now, Jake Paul is in the middle of one of those battles. It's also worth noting that the shift in venue from London's historic Wembley Stadium to a potential American location changes the financial and cultural dynamics of the fight entirely. Wembley would have guaranteed a roaring home crowd for Joshua, a man who has fought and won in front of massive UK audiences multiple times. The energy, the patriotism, and the sense of spectacle would have been unmatched. In the United States, while the fight would still draw huge numbers, the atmosphere would be different, likely more neutral and possibly more commercially driven, with pay-per-view sales and celebrity attendance taking center stage. This change might benefit Jake Paul more than Joshua, given Paul's massive American fan base and his mastery of US-style promotion. The British Boxing Control Board's hesitation also sheds light on a larger issue in the sport, the balance between spectacle and safety. In recent years, crossover boxing matches, fights between celebrities, YouTubers, and professional fighters, have gained enormous popularity. However, they also raise ethical questions. Should an inexperienced fighter like Jake Paul be allowed to face a seasoned heavyweight like Anthony Joshua, whose power and skill level far exceed anything Paul has encountered? The board's concern is not unfounded. Boxing is a dangerous sport, and one mismatch could lead to serious consequences. While Paul has proven his dedication and improved dramatically in recent years, facing a world-class heavyweight might still be too big of a leap. Meanwhile, Adrian Broner's entrance into the conversation has only added more chaos. Known for his brash personality and in-your-face trash talk, Broner's challenge feels like a classic boxing move, calling someone out publicly to create hype. Yet, even with his decorated past, Broner's recent career has been plagued by long layoffs, legal issues, and inconsistent performances in the ring. Some experts believe he's simply using Paul's name to get back into the spotlight, knowing that a fight with Jake could mean a massive payday, regardless of the outcome. Still, Broner's confidence shouldn't be dismissed. Even at his worst, he's an experienced and skilled fighter who knows how to deliver punishment when he's motivated. Brendan Schaub's take on the situation also highlights an important strategic element: size. In combat sports, size and reach can be just as decisive as skill, and Broner will be giving up a lot in both areas. Paul, having fought at cruiserweight, naturally carries more muscle and power than Broner, who built his career in lighter divisions. While Broner's technique and speed may be superior, the question is whether he can withstand Paul's physicality over multiple rounds. Schaub's assessment reflects the skepticism many fans have. Broner might have the skill, but does he have the size and conditioning to handle Paul's style? In the midst of all this uncertainty, Jake Paul's career strategy seems to be walking a tightrope between credibility and entertainment value. On one hand, he's chasing big names and dangerous fights, which earns him respect among some boxing purists. On the other, he's still very much a showman, choosing opponents and venues that maximize attention and revenue. The Joshua talks, the Broner challenge, and the failed negotiations with Gervonta Davis all point to the same reality. Paul is not just a fighter, he's a brand, and every move he makes is calculated for both sporting impact and business gain. For now, fans are left with more questions than answers. Will the Joshua fight happen in the U.S., or will safety concerns shut it down entirely? Is Broner a serious contender, or just stirring the pot for publicity? And will Jake Paul take a fight that risks his momentum, or will he choose a safer, more strategic opponent? The only certainty is that Paul's next steps will be watched closely, not just by his massive online following, but by the entire boxing world, which has learned to never underestimate his ability to surprise.